The air is cold in Winterthur. It carries the sharp, clean scent of pine and damp earth, drifting through narrow streets where iron-rimmed wheels scrape against stone. Somewhere in the distance, a church bell tolls, steady, patient, marking time in a town that rarely hurries. A cart rattles past. A door creaks open. Voices murmur in low tones behind shuttered windows. Life here moves carefully, predictably. But one boy does not. Hans Max Gamper runs. Not walking, not strolling, but running. His breath comes fast in the chill air, his boots striking the ground in uneven rhythm as he weaves through streets and alleyways. His cheeks are flushed red from the cold, his eyes fixed ahead, always ahead, as if the world itself is something to be chased or escaped. From the very beginning, Hans is in motion. He is born here in 1877, the eldest son in a growing family. There is expectation in that position, quiet, unspoken, but always present. He watches, he learns. He carries more than most boys his age. And then, at just 8 years old, everything changes. His mother dies. Tuberculosis takes her slowly, quietly, leaving behind a stillness that settles into the walls of the home. The warmth fades. Conversations soften. Even the air feels heavier somehow. For Hans, there is no clear way to process it. So he moves, he runs further, cycles longer, pushes harder, as if motion itself can outrun grief, or at least keep it at a distance. Not long after, the family leaves Winterthur behind and moves to Zurich. The city feels different the moment they arrive. Louder, faster, fuller. Trams clatter along steel tracks, sending vibrations through the streets. Market stalls overflow with colour and noise. Vendors calling out, coins clinking, fabrics rustling in the breeze. The air smells of roasted chestnuts, horse leather, and industry. For some, it might feel overwhelming. For Hans, it feels like possibility. He absorbs it all, and then he throws himself into everything. Running becomes competition. Cycling becomes endurance. Football becomes obsession. He is not the biggest, not the strongest, but he is relentless. On the track, he pushes until his lungs burn and his legs tremble. On the roads, he rides for miles, pacing elite cyclists, refusing to fall behind. There is a rhythm to it, a test of will as much as ability, and people begin to notice. By his mid-teens, Hans is already competing at a high level. In athletics, he sets records over middle distances, 800 metres, 1,600 metres, his name beginning to circulate in sporting circles across Zurich. But it is on the football field where something deeper takes hold. In these early days, football is still forming its identity. There are no massive stadiums, no roaring crowds of tens of thousands, just open fields, uneven pitches, and groups of men brought together by a shared love of the game. The rules are flexible. The teams are fluid. Players move between clubs. Matches are arranged quickly, sometimes informally. It is chaotic, imperfect, and completely alive. Hans thrives in it. He plays with energy, with instinct, with an almost restless urgency. Goals come frequently. Movement is constant. He is everywhere, pressing forward, chasing back, demanding the ball. But even here, even as a player, something sets him apart. He doesn't just want to take part, he wants to shape it. As a teenager, he begins organising matches, bringing players together, helping to form teams. When disagreements split clubs apart, he works to reunite them. When there is no structure, he starts building one. This is not typical. Most players are focused on the game in front of them. Hans is already thinking beyond it. One of these early efforts becomes FC Zurich, a club that will grow into something far bigger than any of its founders could imagine. Hans is at the centre of it, not just as a player, but as a leader. He is not yet 20. Already he is creating something that lasts, and still he keeps moving. There is always another race, Another match, another challenge, waiting just beyond the horizon. Even when he begins his apprenticeship in the silk trade, learning precision, discipline, the quiet structure of business, his mind drifts, not away from responsibility, but toward possibility. Because for Hans Gamper, sport is not a distraction from life. It is life. It is connection, identity, creation. He cannot yet see where it will lead, but it is leading him somewhere, away from Switzerland, toward a different rhythm, a different language, a different world, toward a city filled with sunlight, sea air and opportunity. A city called Barcelona, and toward a club that does not yet exist. The light in Barcelona feels different. It spills across the city in warm gold, reflecting off pale stone walls and narrow streets that twist and turn without pattern. The air is softer here, salted by the sea, carrying the distant crash of waves and the cries of gulls circling above the harbour. Tram bells ring, voices overlap in markets, laughter drifts from open windows, nothing stands still. Hans Gamper steps into it all. He arrives in 1899, not with the intention of staying, but simply passing through. Barcelona is meant to be a stop along the way. Another city, another chapter, nothing more. His future, as he imagines it, lies elsewhere. Business opportunities wait beyond Europe. Plans are already forming, but the city interrupts those plans. It is not one moment, not one decision, but something slower, a feeling that builds quietly, the rhythm of the streets, the openness of the people, the sense that here life is not confined. It expands. Hans feels it almost immediately, and instead of leaving, he stays. At first his life settles into something practical. He finds work as an accountant, numbers and ledgers replacing the open roads and running tracks of his youth. He moves between offices, between responsibilities, building a stable life in an unfamiliar place. But stability is not what defines him. Even here, in a new city, the pull of sport returns. It begins informally. A group of men, a ball, open space near the Velodromo della Bonanova. No grandstands, no crowds, just voices calling out in different accents, Swiss, English, Spanish, blending together in a game that feels both chaotic and strangely unifying. Hans is at the centre of it, running, directing, pushing the pace. The same energy that once drove him through the streets of Zurich now finds a new outlet. And once again it is not enough to simply play. He begins to think bigger. Outside the field, he builds connections through his work, through the local Swiss community, through writing for newspapers. He starts to understand the city, not just its streets, but its people, its identity. He listens, he learns. The language begins to shift around him. Catalan phrases replace German ones. His name too begins to change, softened by local voices, reshaped until Hans becomes something new. But the transformation is not just linguistic, it is personal. Because for all its warmth, Barcelona is not without its barriers. When Hans approaches an existing football group with the idea of forming a proper club, structured, organised, open, he is met with resistance. The answer is simple and final. No, he is a foreigner. For a moment the path narrows, the familiar feeling of being outside, looking in. But Hans Gamper does not stop when doors close. He builds new ones. The rejection does not weaken his idea, it sharpens it. If there is no place for him within the existing structure, then he will create something different, something better. A club not defined by origin, but by participation. A club where anyone can belong. The idea takes shape quickly. On the 22nd of October, 1899, Hans places an advert in a local sports newspaper. It is simple, direct. A call to anyone interested in forming a football team. There is no guarantee anyone will respond, but they do. Days later, a small group gathers at a gymnasium in the city. Strangers, for the most part. Swiss, British, Spanish, different languages, different backgrounds, all drawn by the same idea. The room is modest, the air thick with anticipation. Hans stands among them, not as an outsider now, but as a catalyst. This is what he does. He brings people together. On the 29th of November 1899, in that room, something new is created. FC Barcelona. At the time, it is nothing more than a name, a group, a shared intention. There are no trophies, no stadium, no legacy, just a ball and a belief. But even in this moment, quiet, almost ordinary, there is a sense of something larger beginning to form. Not just a team, but an idea, one that reflects the city itself, open, diverse, constantly evolving. Hans does not yet know what this club will become. He cannot see the crowds, the history, the meaning it will carry. But he feels something. The same instinct that drove him to run, to build, to create. And now, in Barcelona, that instinct has found its home. The ground is uneven. Dust rises with every step, hanging briefly in the warm Barcelona air before settling again. The pitch at Bonanova is little more than open land, patched grass, hard earth, no lines, no stands, just space. And yet voices echo across it, shouts in English, Spanish, Catalan, German. A whistle cuts through the noise. The game begins. At the centre of it all is Hans Gamper. He moves constantly, forward, back, across the field, never still, never waiting. The ball finds him again and again, as if pulled by instinct. He doesn't hesitate. A touch, a turn, a strike, goal. There are no roaring crowds here, no thousands rising to their feet, just a handful of players, a few spectators, and the sharp sound of the ball hitting the back of a makeshift net. But it matters, because this is the beginning. FC Barcelona is not yet a giant. It is fragile, undefined, a team still discovering what it is and what it could become. And Hans is shaping it with every game he plays. He is not just the founder, he is the captain, the organiser, the driving force. In these early matches, he plays with a kind of urgency that sets the tone for everyone around him. He demands movement, energy, commitment, and he gives all of it himself. Goals come quickly, then more and more. Hans scores at a rate that feels almost unreal, more than 2 goals a game. Some matches blur into a relentless rhythm of attack, the ball returning to his feet, the net shaking again and again. 9 goals in a single match, then another, then another. It is not just dominance, it is momentum. The team begins to believe. Around him, a group starts to form, not just players, but personalities. Men from different countries, different backgrounds, brought together by chance and held together by something stronger. Shared purpose. There is no single language on the field, but somehow they understand each other. A pass into space, a run behind the defence, a glance that says everything. This is not just a team, it is a reflection of the city itself, and slowly it begins to take on an identity. The colours come first, deep blue, dark red. No one can say for certain where they come from, perhaps from Switzerland, perhaps from England, but once chosen, they stick. They become more than fabric, more than a kit. They become a symbol, something to wear, to represent, something to belong to. Matches grow more competitive. Rivalries begin to form. One opponent stands out, Catalan FC, the club that once rejected Hans. Every encounter carries an edge, a quiet tension beneath the surface. Now, the outsider has something to prove, and he does. In 1902, the team reaches a new milestone, a competition, the Copa Macaya. Not just a friendly match, but something structured, something that can be won. The pressure feels different. The games are sharper, faster, more intense. And once again, Hans leads from the front. He scores when it matters most, drives the team forward, refuses to let the moment slip. On the final day, the goals come in waves, a decisive victory, overwhelming and undeniable. When the final whistle blows, there is no grand ceremony, no medals, no global recognition, but there is something just as important. FC Barcelona has its first trophy. It is a small thing in the grand scale of history. But for those on the field, in that moment it feels enormous. Proof that this idea, this club can succeed, that it can win. Hans stands among his teammates, breathing hard, dust clinging to his boots, the noise of celebration rising around him. There is no spotlight on him alone, no separation between founder and player. He is part of it, fully. But even now, even as the goals keep coming and the victories begin to build, something is shifting. Because Hans is starting to see beyond the pitch, he understands something others do not. That talent alone is not enough. That a club needs more than players. It needs structure, stability, a home. It needs to grow, and growth brings challenges. The matches will get harder, the expectations higher, the stakes greater. For now, though, the game continues. The ball rolls across the rough ground. Boots strike, voices rise, and Hans Gamper keeps moving, still running, still building, still shaping something that is only just beginning to show its true potential. The stands creak under the weight of the crowd. Wood groans, voices rise. A low hum builds into something louder. Thousands of people press together, shifting, waiting. The air is thick with dust, tobacco smoke, and anticipation. This is no longer a quiet field on the edge of the city. This is something bigger, but it almost doesn't exist at all. By 1908, FC Barcelona is in trouble. The early energy has faded, players have come and gone, results have dipped, money is tight, interest is slipping. What was once an exciting idea now feels fragile again, like it could disappear as quickly as it was created. And for a moment, it nearly does. Hans Gamper sees it happening. He feels it. The same instinct that once drove him to build the club now tells him something else. It needs saving, so he steps forward. Not as a player this time, but as president. The shift is immediate. Gone are the days of chasing every ball, every goal. Now the challenges are different. Meetings instead of matches, decisions instead of instincts, numbers, debts, responsibilities. But the urgency remains. Hans approaches it the same way he always has, with movement, with action. He reaches out to the community, to businesses, to supporters. He asks for belief, not just in a team, but in an idea worth preserving. Slowly, it works. Funds begin to come in. Stability starts to return. And with that stability comes something the club has never truly had before: a home. Until now, Barcelona has drifted from ground to ground, never settled, never rooted. But in 1909, that changes. A new stadium rises, the Camp de la Industria. It is not enormous, not by future standards, but it is theirs. For the first time, the club belongs somewhere physical, not just in spirit. The stands fill, the noise grows, the identity strengthens. This is where Barcelona begins to feel real. Hans is at the centre of it all, not visible on the pitch, but present in every decision that shapes what the club is becoming. And it doesn't stop there, because he understands something else. A club is not just built on structure, it is built on people. He brings in players who will define an era, talents who elevate the team beyond its early promise. Among them is Paulino Alcantara, a forward whose skill and instinct mirror the intensity Hans once brought to the field himself. Others follow. A team begins to form that is stronger, sharper, more complete. And the results come with it. Victories return. Titles follow. The club starts to dominate regional competitions. lifting trophies, and building a reputation that stretches beyond the city. But something deeper is happening at the same time. In the stands, the crowd is changing. It is growing. Workers, families, locals who see something of themselves in this club. The colours, blue and red, are no longer just a kit. They are a statement, a connection. Barcelona is becoming more than a football team. It is becoming a symbol, a reflection of the city's identity, its pride, its voice. Hans understands this, even if he doesn't always say it aloud. He continues as president, not once, but again and again, returning in times of need, guiding the club through uncertainty, always pushing it forward. Over the years, he leads it through growth that once seemed impossible. Membership rises into the thousands, the stadium fills beyond capacity, and eventually, even the Camp de la Industria is no longer enough. A new home is needed, larger, louder, more ambitious. The club moves again, this time to Les Corts, a stadium that reflects what Barcelona has become. Tens of thousands can now gather, their voices merging into something powerful, something unmistakable. The transformation is complete, from a small group in a gym to a force that commands attention. And at every stage, behind every decision, is Hans Gamper. Not scoring goals now, but building something far greater, something that can last. Yet with growth comes visibility, and with visibility comes pressure. The noise in the stadium is no longer just about football. There is something else beneath it now, something political, something dangerous. The club has found its identity, but that identity will soon be tested, and Hans once again will be at the centre of it. The noise is different now. It is louder than ever, but sharper, tense. Inside the stadium at Les Corts, thousands of voices rise together, but this is not the familiar roar of celebration. There is an edge to it, a feeling that something has shifted. A band begins to play. The Spanish national anthem drifts across the pitch, carried by brass and drum. For a moment the crowd listens, and then whistles, loud, sudden, unmistakable. They cut through the music, growing stronger, spreading through the stands like a wave. What begins as scattered protest becomes something unified, defiant. The anthem struggles to be heard over the sound, and then, just as suddenly, the mood turns again. Applause, not for the anthem, but for something else, something foreign. God Save the King follows, and this time the crowd responds differently. They clap, they cheer. It is a moment that lasts only minutes, but its impact will echo for years. Because in 1925, Spain is not a place where gestures like this go unnoticed. The dictatorship is watching, and they know exactly where to look. FC Barcelona is no longer just a football club. It has become a symbol of Catalan identity, of regional pride, of something separate, something that does not fully align with the authority of the state. And at the heart of it all is Hans Gamper, a foreigner who stayed, a founder who built more than a team, a man who gave the club its spirit. The response is swift. Accusations follow, pressure builds. The message is clear, this cannot continue. Hans is forced out, removed from the club he created, pushed into exile, away from the city that had become his home. The separation is not just professional, it is personal, because Barcelona is no longer just a place to him. It is part of who he is. And now it is taken away. The years that follow are quieter. He returns, but things are not the same. The energy that once drove him, the constant motion, the building, the creating, begins to fade. Outside of football, his business struggles, financial problems mount. The stability he once fought so hard to build starts to slip, and beneath it all, something heavier settles in. Isolation. For a man who spent his life bringing people together, the silence is unfamiliar, unforgiving. On the 30th of July 1930, that silence becomes final. Hans Gamper takes his own life. There is no crowd, no stadium, no noise, just an ending. But the story does not stop there, because in Barcelona, the city remembers. Word spreads quickly, streets fill, people gather, not out of obligation, but out of respect, out of gratitude. The man who once arrived as an outsider is now mourned as one of their own. His funeral becomes a procession. Players carry his coffin through the city, the weight shared between them, step by step. The journey ends at Montjuic, where he is laid to rest, overlooking the place that defined his life. And still, the story continues, because what Hans Gamper built cannot be buried. Years pass, decades. The club grows beyond anything that small group in a gymnasium could have imagined. Stadiums expand, trophies multiply. Generations of players wear the same colours, blue and red, carrying forward the identity he helped create. His name remains, remembered in quiet ways and in loud ones, a street in the city, a legacy woven into every match. And each year, before a new season begins, a game is played in his honour, the Joan Gamper Trophy, a celebration, a reminder, not of how it ended, but of how it began. It is, as it has come to be known, more than a club, and at the heart of it all, still moving, still present in every pass, every goal, every voice in the crowd, is Hans Gamper.